Narcissist Masterclass, and this week we're going to look at going to court against the narcissist. So first off, I want to introduce another resource, and the reason being it's everything that you need to get ready for going to court against someone with these personality traits, and it's called our Get Court Ready program, and I'll pop the link in the description below. But essentially it is an online program for you to work through at your own pace. You can dip into it whenever you need. So if you're preparing for a particular hearing, you could go to one of the modules that best works for that particular area and prep yourself up, or you can work through it all in one go. It's entirely up to you. It covers the abuser, so it gives you an idea about what to expect from them, what their behaviours are, because one of the biggest problems I see for people who are going through this process is they are taken completely off guard by how the narcissist behaves in this court process, but also how the court behaves in this process as well. And so by profiling the abuser and what their behaviors are, it prepares you emotionally for what is going to come. We also cover plan and prepare. So this is about what to do before court, getting ready. So understanding, is court the best option for you? Looking at mediation. Everything in this is useful whether you go to court or go through mediation, or try and organise it yourself, because it is about a lot of the emotional preparation. It's not a legal course. It will not go through the legalities of a court case. That is for either representation, or if you're going to be represent yourself, it's for you to do your homework on that. Obviously my background is social work, so it's very much from a child focused but also a therapeutic perspective as well. So in plan and prepare, we look at the tactics that they're going to use and how you prepare for that, how you prepare for the false allegations that are going to come, and future proofing for yourself and for the court order as well. And then we look at evidence. So again, one of the things that I find with clients is it's not through a lack of evidence that they don't get the court order that is necessary. It is because of how they present that evidence, and the volume of the evidence can be so overwhelming that when they try and deliver it, it gets diluted because of the emotional position that they're in. They can either like verbal diarrhea it, blah, 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 this happened, and then this happened, and then it's happened. It's really hard for people to kind of follow the train of thought and keep up. So evidence gets lost in that process. But also, you know, if you're trying to deliver a lot of evidence, you can forget some really important stuff. You know, PTSD has affected your brain, your memory, your emotions, and so it's hard for you to recall, and therefore that can affect your credibility. And so the evidence section is all about helping you to go through your whole experience, which is also quite healing as well, difficult but can be healing. But it also then helps you to formulate key pieces of evidence that really show how to demonstrate the patterns of behaviours that are really problematic and that need addressing within the court order, to give you and your family security around that, and also to prevent you from having to keep going back to court. Because that's the other thing, if you get an ambivalent court order that's, you know, a bit flaky, very vague in its terminology and direction, narcissists will just pick and choose the bits that it does. It will have a different interpretation, and so you'll end up arguing about every single thing in the court order. So actually it'll just create more stress. So what you need is a really solid court order that is very detailed. But in order to get that, you need to be able to prove why you need it. And that's where evidence, an evidence tracker that we use, comes into play. Coupled with the free writing for court document that's in Get Court Ready, it means you can really solidly go, these are the problems, this is what is happening, and this is why we need this court order. So that people always say, how do I prove this? How do I prove what I'm going through? This is how you prove it. You prove it through your evidence, but you also prove it through your own behaviour, and how you play into that, which, you know, is all about your trauma, which we'll talk about in another week. Module 4 is all about assessing and managing risk. So for this, it is about how do you demonstrate a risk to you and to the children without being accused of you being the problem, and, or like I say, having that ambivalent court order. So you need to know what they're looking for. You need to understand the language of risk. And so, like I said, my background is child protection, social work, and so it's in Get Caught Ready, it's very much about child protection. So it gives you the framework for you to safeguard. What are they looking for? And then how can you detail? If you're doing this in the monthly subscription, I will provide some of the forms in there for you so you can start collating your evidence. And it's that is how, when you use their tools to assess your situation, it's not about showing them that you've done that, but it means you're speaking their language, and that can help build rapport. It also focuses in on what they're going to be bothered about. So rather than you talking around all the things that maybe don't have any weight in their eyes, you're able to pinpoint and go, these are things that you're going to think are risky. So it's a really powerful way of proving the risk, like I say, using their tools. Module 5 is working with professionals. So again, another thing that I come across a lot is the ex is charming and emotionally seductive, so he's able to get them on side. They win them over. You know, I've known professionals get romantically involved with narcissists as a result of working together, because they are, you know, and that's career suicide. And yet they almost, you know, as you know from your own experience, it's almost like they put you under a spell and you just follow them blindly. And so you knowing how to work with professionals so that you can counter some of that. You're not going to stop how they behave, but you can use your own strengths to work with professionals. And part of that is that building of rapport, building a sense of familiarity with them, because narcissists are very good at that. You know, they did that to you at the start of the relationship, so they're gonna be doing that. So it's not that you need to change who you are, but you have these skills. It's just when you've got PTSD and when you're stressed out and when you're frustrated and when you're angry, they go out the window, and you end up becoming or looking like you're argumentative, or you're dismissive, or you're uncooperative, when actually you have the skills to build good relationships. You have better skills than the narcissist to build good relationships. You have higher levels of empathy and compassion, but they are not working for you when you've got PTSD. And so these are some ways for you to almost trick the system. Now, I'm not saying do that, and we have trauma tools within Get Caught Ready to help you do both, so practical skills alongside the underlying healing. But those skills to build that rapport are really powerful in making sure that your ex doesn't use that to their benefit, because when the professionals align with your ex, it is really hard, because even if at some point they go, I think I got this wrong, they're very unlikely to say that out loud, because it's their professional career on the line. And so you really want to kind of stop that from gaining any momentum. Certainly you don't want the distance to be so huge. So even if they do sort of initially look like they're siding with them, you want there to be a small enough gap so that when they do realise, oh God, I got it wrong, they haven't gone so far down the track that their ego is going, well, we can't say that out loud. They've been equal enough for them to be able to have that turn and go, after further, assessment, we realise this is what's going on. So working with professionals is really important, and knowing how to do that. And part of that is understanding what are all their different roles, because, you're going to have lawyers, barristers, mediators, GPs, teachers, social workers, in the UK, Kafkas officer. Understanding the different roles that they play will help you to adapt, so that you are, like I say, giving them the information that they, in their professional capacity, need for their assessments. So it's like going to a foot doctor to describe a brain injury. It doesn't mean the injury is not significant, but what it means is the foot doctor isn't going to understand it. So you need to so when you're speaking to them, you need to be able to describe it in a way that they do understand. So not a great example, but hopefully you can understand. Module 6 is all about you and what role that you have played in getting it to this point. And we all play a part in this, consciously and unconsciously, because we have wounds. We have our own childhood wounds that have led us to be people pleasers, that have led us to put our own needs on the back burner, that have led us to be passive rather than assertive. And so identifying that and looking at how can I change that? What beliefs are in me that are preventing me from living the life that I want? And healing those areas really does have a powerful impact on your outer world. So, I'm a big advocate for doing the inner work and watching your outer world change. And this is part of it. It's identifying the role that you have played within this situation. And that's not about blame, but it is about responsibility. And I personally think responsibility means power, because if something's my responsibility, then I have power in that situation. If I'm just a victim of circumstance and there's nothing I can do, I am powerless. And when you're in that victim mindset, you've lost already. So being able to take responsibility, being able to identify, actually, I think I am a rescuer. And so therefore I have done this, and maybe that has been interpreted in the wrong way. How can I not play into these roles? So it's really powerful for you to look at areas for growth for you, areas for you to do that inner work, so that you can have different outcomes. And then the final one is all about your emotional recovery. So trauma bonds, releasing your trauma narrative, codependency, and then we've got the Neuro-Resilience Toolkit. The Neuro-Resilience Toolkit is beyond powerful. It is incredible. It creates an inner sense of safety, a felt sense of safety. So when you've been in this sort of relationship, and maybe even when you've done some of the inner work, you recognise, I maybe never have felt completely safe, either in my body or in the world. The Neuro-Resilience Toolkit will help you to feel safe within your body, which obviously then means you take your body everywhere with you. So if I'm safe in my body, I'm safe in the world. And that changes how you interact with people. It changes the conversations that you have. It changes your communication style, all of which have played in to the situation that you are in, and it plays into the narrative within the court environment. And so when you heal that, when you regulate your nervous system, you become a different person. You become stronger, you become more self-assured, you become more confident, you become more assertive, because that fear has dropped. Now, I'm not saying it goes, there's a lot of healing that's required, but those practices, if you do them just before you go into court, and these are things that you can remember, and you can just do a couple of them before you go in, you will present in a very different way to someone with a dysregulated nervous system. When you've got a dysregulated nervous system, you are triggered like that all the time, because you've got a very small window of tolerance, and so everything bothers you. Look, the sounds, the words, the looks, the smells. You are on sensory overload, and you're incredibly triggered by that whole process. When you've got a regulated nervous system, your window of tolerance expands, so you're less bothered by things. That doesn't mean you're not bothered by things, but it means you're less bothered. And so what that does is it means that when your ex tries to trigger you with an allegation that they just suddenly try to throw in willy-nilly, or their representation tries to bait you into reacting, you don't respond in the way that you have done before. You are calmer. You're able to come from a much more secure place, and so you don't react, you don't play into the narrative that they have set about you. And what this does is it causes them to dysregulate, and when they dysregulate, you know what that looks like because you've lived with it. You know that it means rage, you know that it means paranoia, you know that it means complete emotional breakdown in some cases. And so when you regulate your nervous system, theirs goes into super dysregulation because they are relying upon you to regulate them. When they see you react, that regulates them. But when you regulate yourself rather than them, they've got no one to regulate them whatsoever. And so they spiral. And then everyone gets to see who they are and how they behave. And so the work is done for you. So that's the power of the Get Caught Ready program. For those of you, like I say, you were doing this in the group, I will make tools available to you within that. There will be handouts, there will be safeguarding documents for you to be able to fill in. There'll be parenting assessments for you to look at and for you to use the language within that. And so there'll be lots of resources available to help prepare you for court. And so, yeah, you know, going to court against a narcissist is about your preparation. That's the bottom line of it. They are going to do what they are going to do. For you, the only control that you have is how you respond to that, how you present yourself and how you present your evidence are the two key areas. And that is where Get Caught Ready can help, because it can help you with the evidence and it can help you with your own presentation. But yeah, work around what evidence you have. Organise your evidence now as early as possible in the proceedings. Text to, so if you've got lots of text messages, text to email. There's apps that you can get from the Apple Store or Google Play. Download them and it'll convert your text messages into emails. It just makes it easier for you to print rather than having screenshots. You can just print it off and then it's got all the date and time information on there as well, which is easier for you to submit. But what you want to be doing is you don't want to be submitting all of that as your evidence alone. What you want to be doing is pulling out what this shows about a pattern of behaviour. So rather than the whole conversation, it's pulling out how that conversation fits into a pattern that you are describing. And like I said, that's where evidence tracker helps. But for you, if you don't want to go down that road, it is about what evidence have I got and how does this prove risk? How does this prove that they are that it limits their parenting capacity? How do I prove that I need a really solid court order? And that's kind of what you need to be thinking with your evidence, is how does this piece of evidence prove this point, and slot it in like that. Because like I say, it's not that you haven't got loads of evidence, it's that you've maybe got too much evidence, and then when you try and submit it, it won't get read, and if it does, it'll just get skim read. So when you're able to pull out key pieces, and like I say, the writing for court document that's in Get Caught Ready it shows you exactly how to do that. But you want to be pulling out the key pieces of evidence that prove the patterns of behaviour that the court is going to go, oh, okay, so this is what is going on, rather than just a shitload of evidence that they can't really make head nor tail of. So that's how you do that. In terms of presenting yourself, like I say, it is about you not playing in to the roles that have been dictated, the conditioned behaviour that you've had during that relationship. Or equally, when you come out of these relationships, sometimes you can go completely the opposite end of the spectrum, but that can be misinterpreted as well. So you want to be being as close to your true self as possible, which is high empathy, high levels of compassion, confident, calm, you know, that is your true self. It's about getting as close to that, and that is where the recovery tools come in as well. So like I say, I'll leave the link below. Hopefully this video has provided you with lots of key ideas. As I say, if you're in the masterclass monthly subscription, you will get tools alongside that as well. Take care, everyone. Thank you to those of you that have watched. If you have questions, pop them below the video. And yeah, take care, everyone. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.